We now commence with part 2 of William Walker Atkinson's The Arcane Teaching, published in 1909. Part 2 is called The Cosmos. The first of the 3 lessons in part 2 is lesson 4 in the overall teaching. It is called The Manifestation. Lesson 4, The Manifestation. This is the arcane teaching regarding the process whereby the unmanifest becomes manifest, the latency becomes activity, the possibility becomes actuality, the potentiality becomes reality, the promise becomes fulfillment. Listen to the aphorism. Aphorism number 6. During the eons of the cosmic night, the law dwells alone in solitude. The cosmos remains resolved into its condition of the unmanifest, the infinity of nothingness. Then comes the dawn, when the law superimposes the infinity of nothingness and causes the unmanifest to become manifest, the nothing to become everything, latency to become activity, potentiality to become reality, promise to become fulfillment. At the extreme swing of the pendulum of rhythm, at the point of the cycle in which end fades into beginning, the climax of the cosmic night is reached in the form of absolute rest, extending over eons of time. Then after the eons of absolute rest comes the first activities of the future cosmic day. During the cosmic night, as the aphorism states, quote, the law dwells alone in solitude. The cosmos remains resolved into its condition of the unmanifest, the infinity of nothingness, end quote. Then begin the first stirrings of the birth of the new cosmic day, which the aphorism describes as follows. Then comes the dawn, when the law superimposes the infinity of nothingness and causes the unmanifest to become manifest, the nothing to become everything, latency to become reality, promise to become fulfillment. Let us consider what is meant by the words of the aphorism. The first step of the new activities is indicated by the words, the law superimposes the infinity of nothingness. These words, at first consideration, would seem to indicate a decided action of the law in the direction of superimposing infinity. But such is not the arcane teaching. The teachers hold that the law exerts no different degree or kind of power at the period of dawn than at the period of dusk, no more at the period of high noon than at the period of midnight. During the cosmic day and cosmic night, the law is unchangeable and constant in its power and influence. The difference is caused by the cyclic swing or rhythmic movement in the cosmos itself, manifest or unmanifest. The law is over and above rhythm or cyclicity, or any of the other 7 laws, and is changeless. The cosmos, on the contrary, is under the 7 laws superimposed by the law, and is changeable, constantly changing. The difference in the degree of power received from the law is due to the changing conditions of the cosmos or infinity. In order to understand what has been said, let us imagine a mighty magnet, constant in its power and invariable in its manifestations of magnetic force upon all within its magnetic field. Then let us imagine an infinity of infinitesimal particles of steel filings, separated from the magnet by a glass watch cover. Let us suppose that owing to the operation of some unknown magnetic law, the receptivity of the steel particles changes in rhythmic periods or in cyclic recurrence. In that case, it would follow that, although the power of the magnet were unchangeable and its manifestations invariable, still the action of the steel particles would cause it to appear otherwise. For at times there would be a marked degree of power shown, and at other times a much less degree would be exhibited. But the difference would be in the nature of the steel particles and not in that of the magnet. Or suppose that the Earth were to manifest varying degrees of receptivity to the attraction of gravitation of the Sun. Then while it would seem to be a varying degree of power of the Sun, the difference would really be caused by the changes in the Earth, the Sun remaining constant and invariable all the time. In these two examples may be seen the nature of the action of the law upon the cosmos or infinity. Some of the occult schools who have been influenced by the arcane teaching hold that the law is attracted by infinity, or the cosmos, just as the latter is by the law. In other words, they hold that there is a mutual attraction and effect, an action and a reaction, a reciprocal action, but this is incorrect. The law is never attracted or affected in any way by the cosmos or infinity. It is absolute and beyond mutual relationship. Were the cosmos and infinity not to exist, the law would not vary a particle in any way whatsoever. Its absoluteness raises it above relations. But while this is so, the fact of the constant outpouring of the power of the law causes the cosmos to be affected by it, just as are the steel filings by the magnet. According to rhythm, the degree of power received by the cosmos must vary, but the law changes not. In fact, the 7 laws themselves, which produce these changes in the cosmos, are a part of the action and power of the law, as experienced by the cosmos. They are superimposed by the law. The aphorism says, the law superimposes the infinity of nothingness. So what is meant by superimposes? The word super means over or above, and impose means to lay or place upon. Superimpose means to place upon from above, or as used in the aphorism, to influence from above. In other words, the infinity of nothingness, or unmanifest cosmos, owing to the influence of rhythm and cyclicity, begins once more to experience the active radiation of the power of the law, which serves to vitalize and energize it, and thus begins the dawn of the new cosmic day and the beginnings of a new universal life, or cosmic will. In order to understand this awakening, or stirring into activity of the cosmos, which dwells latent within the womb of the infinity of nothingness, let us consider the 3 principles of the cosmos, from which all forms, shapes, combinations, and varieties of manifestation arise. These 3 principles are as follows. 1. The cosmic principle of substance. 2. The cosmic principle of motion. And 3. The cosmic principle of consciousness. These 3 principles are unmanifest during the cosmic night, but awaken into nascency and activity with the first thrill of the dawn of the new cosmic day. In the end, and at the last, these 3 must be considered as phases of one. But that one, in itself, is but the reflection, so to speak, of the law, although not by any means to be considered as being qualities or phases of the law. The law has no qualities or phases. It is over and above these things, which are but the aspects of infinity or the cosmos. The 3 principles are fundamental in all manifestations of the cosmos, from lowest to highest, from the simplest to the most complex. Wherever is found any manifestation of the cosmos, there is and must be found the presence of the 3 principles in some degree of development or activity. If you prefer, you may think of the cosmos as consisting of merely these 3 principles, manifest or unmanifest. These 3 principles we can never know of themselves. We know them only through and by their manifestations. Let us consider them in detail by light of the arcane teaching. Number 1, the first principle, substance. Excuse me. Substance, as the term is used in the arcane teaching, means the underlying body of things, their material quality. Everything that is manifested in the cosmos has its body or material quality. Substance includes all that we may think of as matter, in its various degrees of solidity or lack of solidity, from the hardest steel or granite to the most rarefied gas or vapor known to science. It includes all that science dares to think of as material body, even in the highest flights of its reason or imagination, and then all that lies beyond these conceptions. The field of substance recognized by science, as compared with the real extent of the principle of substance, is as no more than a hairline drawn across a yardstick. There are forms of matter as much more solid and dense than steel or granite as the latter are more dense and solid than hydrogen gas. And at the other end of the scale, there are forms of substance that could not be described in words, so near akin to nothing are they. Between these two extremes there lies a bewildering number of degrees. That which science calls electricity and other subtle forms of energy are not energy at all, but merely energy or motion manifesting through subtle forms of substance, which act as its body. There are forms of substance many times finer and rarer than even these. There are bodies worn by beings on higher planes which are rarer and finer than electricity. Even the ordinary astral bodies of beings on our own plane and stage of development are far rarer and finer than is electricity or the finest rays of light or magnetism. These bodies are just as real as is the piece of hardest steel through which they may pass as easily as the X-rays pass through stone. The universal ether, which science assumes to be the extreme limit and infinity of subtle tenuity and fineness, is solid and compact when compared with many of the higher forms of substance. So much for manifest substance. Unmanifest substance is held by the arcanes to be identical with pure space. In the preceding lesson, you have seen that pure space is considered as nothing. This nothing is merely the extreme limit of the fineness or rareness of substance. Space is not a mere idea. It is substance carried to its extreme highest limit. The arcanes do not object to the term abstract substance, although they do not regard abstract as meaning not. One of the old Egyptian Aerophons was once asked by the ruler of Egypt, "What is that which would exist where there no universe is, where there is no universe, no gods, no anything?" And his answer was space. And this pure space is the unmanifest cosmos in its aspect or principle of substance. Number 2, the second principle, motion. Motion, as the term is used in the arcane teaching, means the underlying energy, force, or motive power of things, their quality of action. Motion in the arcane teaching is the principle in which is gathered the cause of all that we know under the names of energy, force, motive power, action, activity, attraction, repulsion of any and all kinds or degrees. Without motion, there could be no activities, energy, or force of any kind. We are familiar with many manifestations of the principle of motion, such as gravitation, cohesion, chemical affinity, electronic attraction, expansion, contraction, centrifugal and centripetal force, the motive force or energy of light, heat, electricity, magnetism, the energy of the ultra-electric rays, etc. But these are only a very small fraction of the forms and varieties of energy and force known to the advanced students of the arcane teachings, not to speak of the masters or those on higher planes of life. There are finer forces not dreamt of by even the most daring scientists. Motion, like substance, is found in each and every manifestation of the cosmos. Wherever there is substance, there is motion. In its highest form of manifestation, motion manifests in vibrations of such exceedingly high degree and effect that there seems to be a condition of absolute rest. This condition is the one existing before the first stirrings of the dawn of the new cosmic day. Motion is then motionless, to all intents and purposes, but it has not perished or been destroyed. It is motion in latency. There is no such thing as absolute rest in the manifest cosmos. But in the unmanifest cosmos, there is motion of so high a degree that it seems motionless and at rest. Thus do extremes meet in infinity. When the cosmos becomes manifest, motion decreases its rate of action or vibration, and manifestation is really a lowering in the scale of motion, just as manifestation is a lowering in the scale of substance. There first must be involution before there is evolution of both substance and motion. The third principle, consciousness. Consciousness, as the term is used in the Arcane teaching, means the principle of awareness, or mind action of things, their quality of mentalizing or consciousing or becoming aware of other things, inner and outer. We are familiar with the form and degree of consciousness manifested in ourselves and other human beings, and we recognize different shades and degrees in this. We know a little about consciousness in the lower animals in varying degrees, and some of us know of the degrees of consciousness in plants in varying degrees. And those who have been studied along occult lines have become aware of the existence of mind and consciousness in so-called inanimate objects, the minerals, the metals, etc., and even in the atoms, and finally in the ether. Everything in the manifest cosmos has some degree of consciousness. But there are many other higher and lower degrees of consciousness than those just mentioned. From the unconscious consciousness of the cosmic night, when the cosmos is conscious of no thing, because there is but nothing of which to be conscious, to the moment of the high noon of the cosmic day, when the cosmos is fully conscious of itself as a whole, the extreme of cosmic consciousness. There is a scale impossible for man to grasp by reason or imagination. There are degrees and planes of consciousness awaiting the advancing ego, which transcend any possible dream or picture. The race has just begun to manifest consciousness worthy of the name. It is just beginning to enter into the glorious possibilities of cosmic consciousness. It is just beginning to begin. And so, when the law superimposes the infinity of nothingness, the stirrings of magnification are felt by the unmanifest. The three principles of the cosmos are awakened into activity. Substance, motion, and consciousness begin to combine and to become active. There is manifested an unrest and tendency to stir into activity the latent possibilities of the cosmos. Consciousness begins to awaken from its slumber of ages and strives to know itself and to realize its being. This imparts activity to motion, which lowers its vibrations in its effort to manifest itself. This bestirs substance into changing degrees of being. Thus do the first indications of the cosmic day begin to manifest themselves. From thence onward, throughout the cosmic day, until its close, there is constant change of form, shape, and degree of substance. Constant change in manifestation of motion. Constant change in manifestation of consciousness. This first stirring of cosmic activity has been symbolized by the first stirring of the embryo within its temporary home, in which it has lain quietly since its conception. It is the first signs of the sprouting of the tiny seed of the plant. It is the peculiar, weird, and mysterious light which precedes the first actual glimmer of the rising sun. Creation is beginning. The cosmic will, or universal life principle, is becoming active. The birth of the new cosmos is approaching. The one life is arousing itself. Infinity is preparing to become manifest. The zero is evolving into the infinity symbol. In the manifestation of the cosmos, there is exhibited an infinitude of variety, degrees, shapes, form, and combination of the three principles. It almost staggers the imagination to think of the fact that in the entire cosmos there is never a single instance of exact duplication. There are never two things precisely alike. In view of this fact, does it not seem folly to endeavor to make human beings adhere to a common standard, to fit into a common mold, to be cut from a common pattern? And yet throughout the entire cosmos there is ever manifest the law of analogy. That law which ever manifests a correspondence and agreement between all things on all planes. So true is this that if we discover certain fixed principles in one thing, we may reason by analogy regarding other things, and thus discover the unknown X quality. From one know all, says the arcane axiom. As above, so below, adds the Hermetists. And through the entire cosmos there is ever manifest the law of orderly trend. Everything proceeds according to law and order. There is no chance or disorder in the cosmos. The universe is governed by law, and all things are under the laws of the cosmos. And throughout the entire cosmos is ever manifested the law of sequence. Events proceed in a continuous stream, ever flowing onward. No event is separate or isolated. Every event has its precedent, also its subsequent and consequent. Everything has its cause and its effect. Events compose a continuous and unbroken stream. And throughout the entire cosmos there is ever manifest the law of rhythm. Everything vibrates. Everything moves from one pole to the other, from one extreme to the opposite. Everything has its vibratory rate. Everything has its pendulum-like swing between its poles. Day is always followed by night, summer by winter, heat by cold, action by reaction. And throughout the entire cosmos there is ever manifest the law of balance. There is universal equilibrium, compensation, and balance. There is universal equilibrium, compensation, and balance. Everything has something balancing and counterbalancing it. Everything has its price. Everything has its compensation. Nature always maintains its balance, and man finds the law of balance always operative under the phase of the law of compensation. We must pay our price for everything. We cannot have our penny and our cake at the same time. We must ever pay, pay, pay. We can never get something for nothing. And throughout the entire cosmos there is ever manifest the law of cyclicity. Everything moves in circles, or cycles, or spirals. Worlds, nations, peoples, and individuals travel in cycles. The strong convert the cycles into spirals. And throughout the entire cosmos there is ever manifest the law of opposites. Everything has its opposite pole. Everything has its other side. Everything is a paradox. Everything is and isn't at the same time. And the law of polarity is one phase of this law of opposites. In it is locked many arcane secrets. And that is the end of lesson 4.